Everything's coming up to Timberwolves. Yeah, in the zone. Simple dedication to the team when you're in the know. To Timberwolves. Yeah, in the soul. Lifting all the positivity for the Wolves to grow. So, where we going from here, man? We listen week to week to get the clearest to clear. Recaps, got that. Soundcap, got that. Team ads, got that. So tell me what they do not have, huh? How dare you? Foolish question to ask, but I don't mean to go brag. But boy, they got all the stats, and they could go all the way back from KG to Zerbiak. And all I'm saying is that the cast a one-stop shot for my Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Ain't a thing falling, everything's coming up. Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Falling from the autumn, ain't nobody gonna stop him. It's the Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Phonies, you can spot them, they the sheep under their clothes. Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Talk a lot about them, y'all don't really know. Let's go.
Welcome into the Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast. My name is Gabe Anderson, and I'm joined as always by Chris Emerson. Chris, how we doing?
Doing well. Ready for this season to kick off.
Absolutely. And new season means new intro. So, of course, I had to switch up the clips a little bit, and hopefully we'll get some Gobert and Kat and Ant clips to come here. Maybe Bryn Forbes clips. Who knows? We can throw them in. I'm excited about him as well. We'll talk about that going forward. And we're always joined by Jared Good. Jared, how we doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I've been better. I'm battling a little bit of a sickness, but other than that, I was happy to see the intro finally got updated. I know we talked about it a little bit the last couple of podcasts that we did, so I was happy to see you got a little something in there.
I thought since I feel like this is the start of a new season, so I feel like I had to spruce it up a little bit. More changes to come. Make sure to stay tuned for that. And special guest tonight, we got Donaver. Donaver, how we doing?
It's going good. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Just here to talk Wolves on a Tuesday night? Man, all the nights kind of run together. And to your point as well, Jared, I am under the weather as well. I got a little bit of a cold, so I am going to do my best. And if I hope, Jared, I just hope you got like a puke bucket nearby if you need it.
Hey, I've been good all day, but last night was a different story.
Oh, okay. All right. You're on the up and up. Okay. So this is the Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast. I do want to mention, if you like what we're doing here, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like and share, and tell your friends about it as well. We are a young, growing podcast, and we're trying to grow as much as possible. So the big news in the offseason, of course, the acquisition of Rudy Gobert. Now, as of this recording, we haven't seen Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert on the floor together. And let's just get into it. We'll start with you, Chris. How do you think that's going to work? How do you think they'll complement each other?
I don't know if they're going to complement each other very much, other than Gobert's going to cover up for the fact that, Towns is floating around a lot on the perimeter. So it'll shore up our rebounding. So kind of, more just, really, what I look at him, Gobert as, is like a super powered Vando. Like, he's not going to do that many more things. He's just going to do them, at a best in the NBA level. Like, so I don't know if him and Kat, I don't know if he's going to really affect Kat more, other than like one way that I think he's going to affect the game that a lot of people are not understanding it or maybe realizing is when Gobert's in the dunker spot and anyone on our perimeter drives. In the past, that defender used to be able to leave Vando and, step into the restricted area and try to take a charge or try to contest at the rim. They're not going to really be able to do that because you've got, an elite rim finisher for either dump offs or lobs. So that's just 1.5 steps more slow that, that gives Anthony Edwards takeoff, gives Kat another second for his slow loping drive. So I think him and Kat specifically, not that much, but it's all those little things that he's going to do that are going to be amazing.
Mm-hmm. Donaver, anything to add? What do you think?
I think Chris nailed it, especially offensively. You cannot sync off of Gobert like you do Vanderbilt. The real question is going to be defensively how they fit together. I'm very curious to see how it goes Friday night. That's supposed to be their first game they should play together. I think Chris Finch said something like that, if I remember correctly today. So I'm really curious to see how that's going to go and if Kat's actually going to be able to guard the fours and like sprint out, because like we saw Vanderbilt close out on a lot of guys like that last year. I'm really interested to see if Kat is going to hustle as much as Vanderbilt did. He talks about winning all the time. Let's see if he's actually about it, and we'll put that effort in defensively to make it work.
Right. Jared, what do you think?
I think the biggest thing about adding Gobert and this team playing together with Gobert is we talked a lot in the offseason, well, even during the season, trade deadline stuff, how the Timberwolves don't have a whole lot of shots to go around. And that's why I think that, the Gobert was the perfect add, because he's not taking shots away from anybody. Like, he's that dirty in the paint, muck it up, get you 15 points, 15 rebounds, but he'll clean up all of that mess down low. And he should make us a lot better defensively, which is another thing that I'm really excited to see, because one of the biggest downfalls of Kat is he's always in foul trouble. I expect Kat to pretty much not be in foul trouble almost all year long this year, solely because of the fact that we have Gobert protecting the rim instead of himself. And I think that's a big thing moving forward in this year. Now, a lot of people think we overpaid for Gobert, and it was a hefty price tag. There's still people in the national media that think we overpaid for him. Hey, we paid a lot for him, but he is the absolute perfect fit on this current roster that we have. I just think that goes so underlooked. Yeah, I mean, we gave the house for him, but in return, we're looking for a whole lot. This roster is pretty much set in stone as it was, but he is going to basically just be that sheriff down low that mans the paint, that vet that is super consistent. We know what he is. There's no question marks with Rudy Gobert. He's pretty proven in this league.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, and I'll get to you in a second, Chris. You mentioned that the Wolves gave up a lot to get him. Yeah, they gave up a lot of picks, but they really didn't. I think in assets, I don't think they gave up too much. I mean, the only starter they gave up was Jared Vanderbilt, and then the guy off the bench, Malik Beasley, who could shoot. But we'll talk about it in a little bit. I think Bryn Forbes could fill in for that spot, at least offensively. I'm not sure defensively. He's a little small, but I think the cohesiveness of him, Kyle Anderson, and Austin Rivers could definitely fill that hole. But Chris, go ahead.
I mean, the whole, and I know I've kind of did this exercise a while ago, but the whole week so much that national media really wants to push, and Debbie Downers in Wolves circles want to push. So what was it? 4 first-round picks? Is that what it was? So
I believe so. Yeah.
Pick a number where you think we're going to finish. Like, do you think we'll finish, 23rd? Let's say. Let's say we did really bad and we finished 23rd, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Would be 8th. So we're like finished 4th in the East, 4th in the West. We finish about there. So we're drafting 24th. Like, it sounds so scary to say 4 first-round draft picks, and then they're spaced out by 2 years. So if we just did that exercise, I just pulled up the 2020 draft, 24th pick, R.J. Hampton. Okay, well, I'm not too worried about that. You go 2 years before that, and the 24th pick is Aaron Holiday. Holiday, not scaring anybody. Go 2 years before that, and the 23rd pick or 24th is Zizivic or Timothy Lawan Cabaret. Like, these are nobodies that are the 24th pick. You go 2 more years, and you're drafting at the 24th, 23rd pick. You're drafting Rodney Hood or Shabazz Napier. So you're going like 3 guys that aren't in the league, maybe 2 guys that aren't in the league, and 1 guy that was a role player. Like, don't let these picks scare you. These aren't top 5 picks. These are bottom of the barrel picks. These are the picks that teams, in the past used to trade for a second rounder just because they don't want to guarantee somebody 4 years salary when they can get a second rounder that's just as good and don't have to guarantee it. So I don't want to hear anything about what we gave up. Like, I don't want to hear that because we made a move to better our team when teams like the Pelicans add Zion, when teams like the Lakers get healthy, like the teams like Dallas get Wood, like everyone that is sort of in our range got better. We couldn't
Right.
just sit there and let it. I mean, natural progression is one thing, but why not if you got an option? How many players in the top 20 of the NBA were open for trades last year? Probably almost zero, except for him. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
just
him and maybe Mitchell. So two guys on the same team.
right, because for the same reason, right?
Right.
We're talking with Kat. I think it's going to be so amazing to see him play. I know everyone said him and D'Lo, but him and D'Lo are going to be crazy. Like Gobert is the number one pick setter in the NBA, hands down. Are they illegal? A lot of people say so, but he's not called before him, so I don't care. As long as that continues. So he's going to be freeing up so many moves. And D'Lo was killing it in the preseason with him getting to the rim over and over again. Something D'Lo never did is get to the rim. If D'Lo can get to the rim and finish or drop off or lob to Gobert, I mean, that offense as an Arsenal thing, like what was it? Gobert had 200 alley-oop dunks last year, something like that. And the Timberwolves combined had like 12. Like that's unbelievable. Like that, just adding that like element of, anyone driving and either hitting the roll man with the lob or just dumping it off for an easy dunk. It's going to be just easy buckets. And that's the type of thing you need to kill a run, to push your lead over the top, these easy buckets. So it's going to be fun to watch him. He may not blow people away with a crossover step back, but he is going to be, keeping balls alive at the rim. So guys like McDaniels can come in and rebound, who looked really energetic in the preseason games. Freeing guys up for open threes, freeing guys up for open mid-range, giving them a step and a half to get to the rim. All the little ugly things that don't really matter, but matter, that's what he's going to do. And like Jared said, he's not taking shots. Like we don't have shots to give away. So if he's just like a guy that can be an all NBA player and you don't have to run one play for him is one of the most valuable things in the NBA.
Mm-hmm. Jared, go ahead.
Yeah, so I, not to get too off topic here, but I actually started in a fantasy dynasty this year for the first time ever in football. And one of the guys traded all of his 2023 picks, all of his 2024 picks, and has a pretty damn good team. And his team name was F Them Picks. And that's where I'm at. F Them Picks. What do they mean? They don't mean nothing right now. Like, we have a talented enough roster to where our picks aren't going to matter. Like, this team is not only good, but it's young. So, like, if you get yourself to have a talented roster, sometimes you have to make moves to where, hey, the picks really don't matter that much. Like, who are we going to draft at that position that's going to be a usable piece in the next 3 years? Nobody.
I mean, it happens from time to time. It happens. There's a guy late in the draft that is amazing, but you can't just cherry pick every draft and find the one guy out of like a 20 pick like section and be like, oh, we could have had Tony Parker. Like, shut up. Like, that doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah. It's that 1 in a million thing. It's like when you draft, it's like the whole comparison where Jokic went in the second round and his pick
or
wasn't
Tom
even
Brady
on
in the
TV.
fifth.
Right. I think it's 6 actually, and for Tom
Whatever.
Brady, but yeah, for sure. Yeah. It doesn't happen too often. So let's talk about the other All-Star on the, well, I guess I kind of blew the lead on that one, but we'll talk about Nas a little bit. But let's talk about Anthony Edwards. What can we expect out of him in his third year? Now, historically, the third year, a lot of times for young, particularly guards, is their breakout year. It's potentially their first All-Star appearance. It's really when they take the reins. We've heard reports that he's put out like 15 pounds of muscle this offseason, I believe, and he looks great out there. Donaver, let's start with you. What are you looking for out of Ant this year?
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. I mean, we need an all-star season out of him. You're going to see him with the ball in his hands a lot more this coming season, especially if you see D'Lo and Gobert paired together more. You're going to see Kat and Anthony Edwards out there together. And who's going to handle the ball there? I mean, McLaughlin from time to time, but I want to see that ball in Ant's hands and let him create. And I think a big thing with him this offseason was we've seen the mindset flip for him. I mean, he's talked about he's not eating any fried food during the season. Sure, he had that little during the week. Sorry about
on the weekends.
You go to Georgia. You go to Georgia Bulldogs football game, you're eating fried food for sure.
Everything in moderation. So we're not going to see him eating a bunch of Popeyes and stuff after the game. I really do think we see a big leap out of him this year. And if we do, I mean, I don't want to give away my prediction quite yet, but it's going to lead to a lot of wins.
Yeah, Jared, what do you think? What are you looking for out of Ant? And we'll say, do you think, given how highly contested the guard spot in the West is, do you think he's got a shot at an All-Star, being a first-time All-Star this year?
I do. I think, Ant, I was really, really hard on him at the beginning of his rookie season, just because he was so explosive and really struggled finishing at the rim. And that only lasted about 2 or 3 weeks. I remember being really, really on him for it. This dude's special. He's real special. I expect Ant to average north of 20 points per game. I think you're going to see, another 22, 5 and 4 type lines for him. I think that's pretty consistent for him. He's, again, one of those guys that has a ton of shot volume. And my favorite thing about Ant, and this is something that like players or people that watch the games either love or they hate, but I say he's like, like when you put the popcorn in the microwave, boy, when you get to the last 10 seconds, you can hear that popcorn really, really, going hot. And that's the way he is. He sees 1 or 2 go in and, man, he really, really, really gets hot. It's the offseason stuff, man. He looks ripped. I think we shared something in our group chat that we had. He does. You can see the muscle in him. But I also think that, he's going to take more of a leadership role, which is going to be something kind of new for him. And I think that's another thing that I love about adding Gobert. Like, this team's one thing that they didn't really have last year is leadership from any of their star positions. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be something that Gobert rubs off a lot in a very good sense for these young guys.
I think so too. And interesting, you make that point about Gobert. I was watching the end of that, the last game against the Clippers, and Luka Garza comes off the court, and you see him coming out of the timeout. You see Gobert going out of his way to talk to a guy like Luka Garza. Like, who knows, like, if Luka is even going to be part of this team this year, or maybe he's down in Iowa, who knows? But just the fact that he went out of his way to like give some advice to this guy who was great in college and just trying to find his way in the NBA, I think that speaks volumes about kind of the character of Rudy Gobert, except when he's touching microphones at the beginning of COVID. But other than that, I think we can give him a pass. We didn't really know what we were dealing with at that point. But Chris, what do you think? What do you think going back to Ant? Can he be an all-star this year?
What's going to set him apart this year is I think he's going to be our lead on-ball defender. So I think he's going to take over Beverly's role, and he is going to cherish that role. I can tell already. Like, he seems fired up to lock people up. He wants to be all defensive team. So if he can, put up 22 to 25 a night and be third team all defense, or at least talked about in that range, it's hard to keep a guy like that out of the All-Star game. When we talk about guys being all-stars or not, to me, I mean, that's kind of silly because it's all a voting thing and whatever. And It depends on your peers. I'm more talking like, is the guy going to be like an all-star level player? Like, he may not. Good? You guys say something?
I just with the all-star vote, Derrick Rose has led the all-star for years and years because he's loving the Philippines. Just wanted to throw that in there quick.
Yeah, same as
look at Yao Ming. Like every single year.
So yeah,
Wiggins last year.
him taking that step up, I think, is going to be natural. I think he's, he said he went in this trainer, the Timberwolves trainer, like lived with them all year. And I think it's just a level of professionalism. Like when you're young, you think you're being a professional by, working out, like hitting some gyms sometimes. But I think he's starting to see like what the real level to be a professional is. And I think, TP's helping with that. I think Slow-Mo is going to help with that. I think all these vets we brought in are going to help with that. And he's going to dominate. He's talking about learning how to throw a little lob, so I expect a little easy drop-offs to Gobert. He said him and Kat are like the perfect combo because Kat pops, which clears everybody out. And again, if you have one side with Kat and Ant, and Ant obviously blows by his guy, the only guy down low is standing right in front of Rudy Gobert. So if you leave him, that's an easy bucket. I mean, the dude shot 75% for a reason. So it's gonna be a violent take by Ant, and then it's gonna be just points, easy buckets on top of each other. So I've even seen him posting up some. We'll see. It's gonna be fun to watch. But I think the main thing is his lead ball denying defense. Like when he is the guy who takes on, the stars, the guards that are the stars, it's going to be a really fun thing to watch.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Donaver, go ahead.
How crazy is that pre-draft narrative that got driven about Anthony Edwards, that he didn't love the game and that he's not, like, he loved football more. And now what we've seen these last 2 years, it's just amazing to me how wrong about Anthony Edwards they were.
One magazine interview where they asked him a bunch of questions and he's like, "Oh man, I love football. Man, if I could be a football player, I'd love that." Basically that's what he said. And the guy took that snippet and made it sound like, "Oh no, I don't even like basketball. I only like football."
Right.
Like that's how whenever you see a headline ever, I stress to anyone who watches this, go back, find the real interview and listen through it if it bothers you, if the headline bothers you. Because more than likely, whoever that was didn't really say what you think he said.
And no offense, but I mean, if I could be a professional badminton player, sign me up. I'm there. Like what are we talking about here?
Right. Also, I mean, a kid from Georgia, deep in SEC country. I don't think a lot of kids, maybe some do, but I think more kids grow up dreaming of playing Georgia football than Georgia basketball. Like, let's be honest.
Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. They're dominant right now. Anyway, we could talk college football all day. So moving forward, let's go to this. Timberwolves made some off-season acquisitions. The team looks a lot different. Give me one acquisition from this season from this off-season that you think is going to make a big difference. And we'll start with you, Jared. Give me one guy.
I think I lean Austin Rivers.
Other than Rudy, sorry.
Yeah. I lean more Austin Rivers as far as bench play. I think him and Bryn Forbes are very people that you can insert in certain spots. I don't think either one of them will have a significant role. But I do think that Austin Rivers, because he can play a little bit of point, because he has more dual eligibility, I think if our roster gets thin with an injury here and there, that type of player could mean more towards this team going into the season. Not to say that I don't love Bryn Forbes' game, but I think he's super one-dimensional, very much like Beasley was. They're very similar players, so that was kind of like our plug-in player for the replacement of him. But Austin Rivers, we've seen him in a backup point guard role multiple years in a row with Denver and be, I would say, serviceable. He's not going to blow you away, but I think he's a very coachable player. I think pretty much everywhere that he's played, a lot of coaches have said high praises about him. But when you can play more than one position on the floor, I mean, that goes such a long way in the NBA, especially when you look at like our bench. I think our bench is kind of thin still. I don't think it's as thin as I once thought it was, but I still think it's a little on the thin side. So a guy that has dual eligibility and can play multiple roles, I would lean more towards him.
Okay. Donaver, what do you think? Is it Anderson? Is it Forbes? What do you think?
I love Kyle Anderson, and he's going to bring a lot of versatility to our lineups. I'm going to go with Bryn Forbes, though. And it's mainly because you get everything you wanted from Malik Beasley, but you're not forced to continue to play Malik Beasley when he's 0 for 5 on the night because you're paying him 14, 16 million. You're not paying that to Bryn Forbes. I mean, he's going to go out there. He's going to chuck him. If he's on, he's playing more. If he's off, take a seat. We're playing somebody else. So you get everything you wanted on Malik Beasley, and you don't have to pay for it.
And Donaver made a really, really good point there. If Bryn Forbes is 0 for 3, he's going to play 6 minutes. He's going to be at the end of the bench. But Beasley would still play 25, 30 minutes because we needed him to, or we needed to prove why we paid him.
Right, for sure. And then, Chris, go ahead. Who do you think?
First, I'm going to talk about the two guys that they mentioned. Rivers, for example, not even on the court. Just what he is, like his sound bites have been amazing. Like everything that he has said is like just another adult in the room type of how you win basketball games if you're doing it from a press conference stand. I mean, who knows what it is in real life, but he sounds good what he says. And Donaver nailed it with Bryn Forbes. Like you don't have to play him 25 minutes a game. So, he is going to add that coming off screens, coming off pin down shooter, which is a super valuable thing to have. So that's nice. But to me, I mean, it's slow-mo. What he's going to bring to us as a backup power forward is going to be special because that's one thing that I was really looking for in the draft. And I think we fell short on in our draft. Matter of fact, I think we made some mistakes, but I thought we needed a secondary ball handler, play creator, especially one that could be a big, like could be a forward. Like I was looking at Jovic that went to the Heat. That was my guy because he can play some point. We need. I loved Ingles for the same reason. I wanted a guy that could play a position other than point guard, but get into your offense. Lead, set everything up, get everything moving. Because if we're going to play Noel, he's not that guy. Like he's not organizing your offense. So now you don't have to have another small like J-Mac as a point guard along with Noel because Noel's so bad at running point. Now you could have Slow-Mo out there and Noel. And Slow-Mo could handle, getting everything going. So it gives us just so much more versatility. We have so much depth at our 3, 4, 5. It is unbelievable. I mean, last year Edwards played the 3. So let's just take maybe our best player off the list of 3, 4, 5s just to thin it out more. Taurean Prince is looking really good right now. And if he doesn't have his first month of the season where he shot 12%, he was a 40% 3-point shooter last year. So we've got Prince, we've got Slow-Mo, we've got McDaniels, we've got Naz Reid, who looks energized and better than ever right now. We've got Karl Anthony Towns, we've got Rudy Gobert. We've got 6, 7 guys that can all play. And probably only 4 of those guys are going to get meaningful minutes every night. So we are so deep at those big spots. It's scary, So I still love the versatility of Slow-Mo, so I'm going to go with him. But what I really like is just in general, we added adults. Like everyone was worried about losing Pat Beverly, who I'm not going to really go on a stump for saying that he's an adult. But he adds something of experience that we didn't have. And I think all that experience we added back with a lot more mouths who can maybe influence people in different ways with this new group of vets that we brought in.
Absolutely. Jared, anything to add on that?
I like Slow-Mo a lot. He kind of reminds me so much of like you said, Pat Beverly. Everybody hates Pat Beverly unless Pat Beverly's on your team. You love him because he's that instigator. And Slow-Mo is not that way in the same way, but he's a very painful player to watch because of his mechanics.
He's ugly to watch,
but he's super, super effective. And his per minute stats are actually pretty damn good, if I remember correctly. This guy really doesn't play more than like 15 to 20 minutes unless somebody's injured, and then he gets his role expanded. But he's also a guy that can do a little bit of everything. Like, he's the guy that you can see get, 8, 7, and 5, playing, on a heftier minutes. But he's not just one dimensional. Like, he's a bigger body for his. I feel like he's a bigger body than he looks. Like, he does just a little bit of everything. Slow-mo was a really underrated offseason pickup, if I had to say so myself.
Yeah, Donaver, go ahead.
The best thing about all these guys we've mentioned so far is we're just giving Chris Finch more bullets to shoot. Like, we can be so versatile with our lineups this season, and going out and playing a guy like Rivers and Slow-mo and Gobert along with Jaden and Ant. That's one of the longest, best defensive lineups that we've ever seen. Like, just giving Chris Finch all these different player combinations is just going to be a really exciting thing to watch this season.
I agree. Now, something that I kind of wanted to ask, and I think this is specifically targeted towards Chris, who's a little older and remembers this time. Is this team more talented than the 03-04 squad?
Yes.
What do you think, Chris? You think so?
Not even close.
Really?
Not even close. This team's more talented than any Timberwolves team ever. Easily.
Okay.
I mean, we have 2 for sure Hall of Fame players in their prime right now, hands down. Then you've got Anthony Edwards, who, I mean, unless he falls completely off, is a Hall of Fame player who's coming into his prime. So, like, 3 Hall of Fame players, unbelievable. And then to boot, you've got D'Angelo Russell, who we're forgetting about, but was an all-star and is a very solid player. He's still in his prime. I mean, we had guys like Irvin Johnson starting at center. Like,
that's true.
The bench for that team was pretty weak. And remember, it's not like that Timberwolves squad dominated for a decade. Like, one thing that we have to realize about a lot of this stuff is, like, there's so many fairy tales that people believe and remember about Kevin Garnett, but Kevin Garnett was 27 years old the one time in his career that he got the Timberwolves out of the first round. One time ever. He was 27 years old. Karl Anthony Towns is 27 years old right now this year.
Let's do it.
So, I mean, there's a storybook that's been written back there, but it's pretty thin. Like, there's not many pages on that old Timberwolves storybook. This one here is going to have a lot more chapters in it, I think.
I think so as well. So let's just get into it. I got to ask, and we'll start with Jared, and we'll go counterclockwise. We'll start with you, Jared. Where do the Wolves finish in the West?
I mean, there's a really wide range. It can be anywhere from 1 to 7. I'm going to take the median and say 4. I think if we see a healthy Clippers team, I still think they are going to be world beaters this year. And especially if John Wall can play meaningful minutes on that team and be healthy, I think that's a scary, scary team.
Is that an AARP team?
It is, they need to stay healthy for sure. But I would say them. I would say, Jesus, this year is going to be so wild and crazy. I mean, Golden State, they just won a ring. I expect Golden State to be worse this year than they were last year. I expect Memphis to be worse. I expect Dallas to be better. I expect Denver to be better. It's just a huge logjam from 1 to 7, in my opinion. I think we can easily be in the 4 slot. I think there's going to be a couple teams like Dallas and Denver where we could pop up to maybe 3 or 2. But, I mean, the West is as good as it's ever been. And the West has been really good for a long time, which is kind of crazy to think about. But this, from top to bottom, looking at the West versus – the NBA is in really good hands. There's a lot of talent on both sides. Yeah. But the West can go 13 deep right now, if you ask me.
Right. Donaver, what do you think? What do you got the Wolves in the West?
I got them as a top 4 seed right now. I've been loving what I've been seeing out of them in preseason. And even with the whole Kat Rudy fit, we haven't seen it yet. We have seen each of them work separately so far. And I'd be really surprised if they can't figure out a way to make it work. Do I think they'll contend with that 03-04 team and get to near 58 wins? Probably not. Not this season, I don't think, but I expect them to be around the 50 to 55.
Right. Chris, what do you think?
I mean, it's kind of whatever, same story everyone's saying. I mean, I personally, like Jared said, I think the Grizzlies are going to take a fall, kind of like Atlanta did last year, where they had this big splash in the pan year. Everyone thought they were the coolest thing out. And then the next year they're fighting for a playoff spot. I think that's what the Grizzlies are going to be doing. The Suns, I think, will take a step back. It wouldn't blow my mind if
the vibes in Phoenix are not good right now.
Not good.
Especially
Warriors,
because, especially with Phoenix, you have to remember that Chris Paul is still the president of the Players Association, and when he gets something that gets thrown his way that he doesn't like he might put his foot down and miss some games to stand out for the players on this one.
Right.
He's also 74, so he might do that. So I mean, if we're talking regular season standings, I think we can be top 4 for sure. I mean, I think we're better than like the teams that were the top 4 last year are Suns, Grizzlies, Warriors, Mavericks. I think we're better than all those teams in the regular season next year. I think we'll have a better record than all those teams. Rudy Gobert very, very rarely has under 50 wins under his belt. That sort of consistency that he gives a team really stops those ups and downs in your season. Like it evens out those bottoms. He raised lower, so that helps so much. The Nuggets are going to be tough. The Pelicans are going to be tough. I don't know anything about the Lakers. So you give me Warriors, Nuggets, Clippers, us. I don't know. Like it's going to be, I mean, we're 4-5, but like you said, it could be 7 and we could be an amazing team at 7. So, I mean, it just comes down to matchups in the playoffs then.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's what's going to be tough if we get into another play-in scenario. I mean, the teams that we could potentially play could be tough. I mean, it could be like the Lakers, could be the Pelicans, could be
anybody.
Could be Portland, who kills us every year with Dame Lillard. Yeah, like you said, I think Denver is going to be really good this year. But if everything works out, obviously, if Michael Porter Jr. doesn't get hurt once again, with Jamal Murray coming back. I mean, look at what Jokic did by himself, essentially. Like, there's a reason that he took home his second straight MVP. So I got us, like everyone else, I got us maybe 4, maybe 5. I think our ceiling is 1. I think so, because honestly, I think there's a couple teams out there that might not necessarily coast when they get to the regular season, but I don't think they're going to be going all out. Like, for example, I think the Timberwolves are going to be a regular season team, where regular season playing hard every single night, whereas like the Golden State Warriors, who have been there before, they might take a couple of nights off. Like Clay on back-to-back, I heard there's 15 back-to-backs for the Warriors this year. He's going to sit every single one of them. So I mean, like they're going to do damage control, and it's just the philosophy of we haven't been there before, so we're going to try really hard. Versus we're the Warriors. What, we got 4 championships? Like we don't need to. We need to go all out in this random Utah game on a Thursday or whatever.
And a lot of those teams that we mentioned that many of us might have ahead of the Timberwolves had major injury issues. Like you said, Denver with Murray and Porter, I mean, if they lose either one of those, they're going to be in that 7 to 10 range, Same thing with the Clippers. If they lose PG-13 or Kawhi, I mean, you're bumping them way down as well. It's the West is deep, man. A lot of it's going to determine whether or not your team's healthy, which is crazy to say because there's a lot of talent.
Right. Chris, go ahead.
The one thing that I've been in my head, I can't get out of it. The one thing that's going to decide if we're a top 4 seed or if we're a 5, 6 seed, 7 seed to me is McDaniels. He's going to have a huge role, or I guess maybe not because Prince could step in, but if he can shoot 35% from three. Like if he can be a reliable kick, because he's the one everyone's going to leave. Everyone's going to leave McDaniels to double other people. If he can hit at 35% or above, we're a top 4 seed. If he's below 35%, I'll say we're, under 4 seed. Like he needs to be a threat of some sort. And I like what I've seen from him so far. Not only his jump shot is look good, but he has been really competing on the rebounds. I mean, getting in there, multiple offensive tips, like really scrapping. And I think that's going to go a long ways just for the whole attitude of our team. If we attack the rebounds, we went from the smallest team in the NBA last year to probably the tallest, unless, Orlando does something wild. The tallest, roster there is. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy the turnaround in 1 year, just strictly physical that we've done.
Right. Jared, go ahead.
Yeah, I love how you mentioned a guy like McDaniels and a certain percentage because I think that's something really important to look for because, yeah, we know who our stars are. We know who everybody on this team is. There's those guys that are going to make a difference. And my guy that's going to make a difference is Bryn Forbes. If he can shoot 40%, I think that's going to lead to a lot of success for Timberwolves. And I bring Bryn Forbes because I don't think he should ever take a contested shot this year. Like that dude, when he shoots, should be wide open every single time he shoots the ball because you got to think that we have all these stars that are spacing the floor. And I think that Bryn Forbes in particular is a veteran guy who will know his role, who needs to just shoot 40%. And I think that could lead to a lot of success, even if he doesn't play a whole lot.
Right. Like you said,
he takes bad shots.
Right. Yeah, I feel like he's going to earn all of his minutes. Like you said, he'll probably get 6 minutes out there. If he's hitting shots, he'll be on the bench. Or if he's hitting shots, he'll be out there. If not, the only thing that worries me about him is he's a little undersized. But I think we're going to end it there. Chris, thanks so much for being here.
No problem, man. Let me know when you need me.
Always will. Jared, thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely. And a special thanks to Donaver for joining us. Always good to have a third mind on here, or fourth.
Absolutely.
I can't count.
That's where I was going next year. Donaver, thanks so much for joining us, and we'd love to have you back.
Anytime you guys need me, man. I can't wait for next Wednesday.
Absolutely. So, with that said, have yourselves a great night. This is the Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Spotify so you never miss an episode. And as always, go Wolves.